If you would please locate paper and a pencil or pen for taking notes. You'll need that especially later on. And we ask everyone to be patient with us as we muddle through Zoom. Sometimes our technology flows smoothly and sometimes it doesn't. So we extend grace and space to each other for any obstacles and snafus. So next slide, Teresa. So first of all, I am curious and I want to know what you'd like to get out of the workshop. So first, I imagine that you want to figure out how to work more cohesively as a state and looking for tools to do so. You might want to figure out how you can best match your skills and talents to specific tasks and projects within the state or your chapter. And I know you want to pass the Energy, Innovation, and Carbon Dividend Act. So if any of these resonate with you, then you are in the right Zoom call this morning. What other things would you like to get out of today's training? Could you go to the chat, and I'll tell you where that is, and then type in your answers. So the chat is at the bottom of your Zoom screen. There's a bar, a light gray bar. Oh, John Clark has put inspiration. Ruth says confidence. In the middle of that bar, you'll see a chat button, and you can enter your answer right there in the chat button. And if you make sure it's going to everyone, then we can all see it. So go ahead and write, what would you like to get out of today's workshop? And Teresa, I know you're working on the whatever's going on there with the black blobs, but don't worry, if you can fix that, great. If not, we will just steam ahead. So inspiration, says Joe. Growth, says Tony. What would you like to get out of today's workshop? Go ahead and put that in the chat. This will help us. We use the chat a bit in the workshop, so it's nice to know where it is. Take a minute to figure that out. Connection, says Maggie. Peter says, how to enhance engagement of less active members. Woo, woo. Yep. We've got some people who are new. We welcome our new people. We want to energize and excite existing and new members. Very big welcome to our new members. George is looking for ideas for effective action. Beth says ideas, understanding, and solutions, says Fred. Understanding what CCL can offer to Kentucky, says Pam. Awesome, great. John says ideas and directions. Maria says, as a young person, partially responsible for the future of this world, partly responsible for the future of the world, the knowledge to establish a firm plan. Welcome, we love the young people coming. Jim says, how to work better within the COVID reality. Yes, very much so. Good. Oh, I love these answers. All right, very good. So next slide for us. I want to celebrate Kentucky a bit. My grandfather and his brothers and sisters grew up on a little mountain farm near where Ohio dips down in between West Virginia and Kentucky. So he was on the Kentucky side. So I have a warm spot in my heart for Kentucky. And in Kentucky, you've got the Kentucky Derby, Kentucky Bourbon, Mammoth Cave, among others, the Louisville Slugger, Red River Gorge, Muhammad Ali, Cave Run Lake, Abraham Lincoln's birthplace, and mint juleps. So Sarah, are you there? You might need to unmute.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. Don't forget we have UK basketball.
Very good.
Coach Cal lives around the corner from me, so I always think about that.
Awesome. And if you'll move to the next slide, Teresa, that'd be great.
I can't.
Can you get to your slides all right, Sarah?
I am having problems. Hold on. As usual, I'm having technical difficulties.
So you'll need to minimize the Zoom screen, make the Zoom screen small, and open up the slides in your own.
And I think the dark shadows that we're seeing across the slides are the Zoom little boxes and Teresa's.
Is that something to, oh.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I've had to turn off chat and all that because it must block if I have in present mode, so on the screen. So.
Yeah, there's one rectangle up at the top yet, but that's.
Yeah, I gotta keep that one, I think, because that's my bar to mute.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
But let me see if I can make it smaller.
Cool.
Technology, that's Zoom for us. Boy, oh boy, it stretches me. Well, so what I'd like to do is go ahead and, Sarah, are you ready, or do you want me to keep going?
Why don't you get going? Mine's still pulling a thingy up.
Okay. All right. So what I also know about Kentucky is that you guys have several climate heroes, including some Republican climate heroes in the House. You have Representative Brett Guthrie, who joined the Bipartisan Climate Solutions Caucus and sponsored the Reclaim Act. Representative Hal Rogers, who also co-sponsored the Reclaim Act. So thank you, gentlemen. Let's go to the next slide. You all also have a Democratic climate hero, Representative Yarmouth, who is a member of the Bipartisan Climate Solutions Caucus. He is also a co-sponsor of HR 763, which is the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act, as well as the Reclaim Act. So next slide. Now, all of you across Kentucky are joining existing CCL chapters and starting new ones. You are working together and you've made some great progress building political will for the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act. Next slide. So CCL in 2020, if you'll click on that next slide, Teresa, has been rough on all of us, but let's look at some of the numbers from 2019. We've got some highlights. You had 20 outreach meetings and 22 lobby meetings and 7 letters to the editor and 3 op-eds and, oh my goodness, almost 200 letters to the members of Congress and 58 phone calls. So you guys got off to a running start in 2019. And as we bounce back in 2021 and with the help of this training, I think we're gonna see some great numbers in the next year. If you'll get us to slide 10, Teresa, with the list of endorsements. I love this list. You all have done a great job getting endorsements from.
I'm going to stop sharing and reshare because it's done something weird. So keep going, and I will be right back with it.
Ellie, mine's up again, so I'm good.
There we go. All right, Sarah, do you want to tell us about these endorsements?
Well, with the endorsements, we've had the Episcopal Diocese of Kentucky and the Sisters of Charity of Nazareth Congressional Leadership Committee, Darkness Brewing, that's in Bellevue, Abaca Games in Lexington, the Northern Kentucky Justice and Peace, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Lexington. They do lots of stuff for the environment in general. They're awesome. And Pivot Brewing, of course, which is Kevin, who owns Pivot. He's just amazing anyway. So he does all of our local meetings and stuff for us when we're allowed in person.
I love that, from faith to drinking. Wonderful. So you guys have done great work in Kentucky. We're going to introduce our presentation team. First is John Clark. So yeah, go ahead, Teresa. You can get us on there. He's our breakout room manager and your regional coordinator. So I'm going to ask John to introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. John Clark. I'm in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I just retired from the post office after 25 years. And I've started full-time as a CCL coordinator for Appalachia region. And I started the very first chapter in Pennsylvania in 2011.
Awesome. Thank you, John. Next slide. Let's have Tony. We've got 3 state coordinators. And Tony, would you unmute and introduce yourself?
Tony Potocznik, it's all there in the screen. Retired home builder, liaison to Senator McConnell. I am a political junkie. Been a CCL volunteer since 15. Like to do a lot of hiking. Anyway, yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Thank you, Tony. Thanks for your help. And Teresa, unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Great. Teresa Warner, live up in Northern Kentucky in Villa Hills, and engineering background. I still work for a telecom company. Been a volunteer since 2017. And part of the fiscal conservative, a member of CCL's Conservative Caucus. And I'm also liaison to Senator Paul's office currently.
Awesome. Thank you, Teresa. We're so glad you're part of the leadership team. And then Sarah, if you'll introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Sarah Call Aslan, and I'm one of the state coordinators. I'm the liaison for Andy Barr. and I'm a teacher. I teach high school English in Woodford County. I live in Lexington. I'm a big environmentalist. That's about it on me.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. All right. And then me, I'll introduce myself. So I started with CCL just about the same time as John Clark did a decade ago and joined up on staff 5 years ago as the Director of Field Development. I also am lucky to have 80 acres under my care in South Central Virginia where I farm regeneratively. And I have 2 kids and I'm a grandmother of 20-month-old Isabel. Happy to show pictures after the workshop. All right, so next slide. And Sarah, would you introduce our levers team?
Yes. Hold on, it's freezing. Okay, so the levers team, we've got Jim's going to be in charge of grass tops, Jim Boat, and then we've got Gary Burst, he's in charge of the media, and Fred Sears is in charge of lobbying, and Christine Missick are doing our group development, and then Janet Hackman is also doing grassroots.
Awesome, wonderful. Next slide. And then do you want to help everyone introduce themselves by the name changing? Would you do that for us?
So, because I didn't know how to do this earlier. So if you will go in to like your thing on Zoom, and at the corner of like your face, there's like 3 little dots. If you click in there, it'll give you the option to change your name and put your first and last name and your city. And that way we'll all just be able to see it and know who each other are.
Awesome. So let's see if we can all do that. You can hover your mouse over your face and you'll see those 2 little blue buttons pop up. You can also go to the participant list. That's another way to change your name. And if you just can't figure either of that out, if you've done the chat, you can put your information in the chat and one of us will change your name. Thankfully, we've got a young person on the line with us today helping with these complicated technical pieces. That's Maria, there she is. So if you cannot figure out how to change your name, she will just put it in the chat and she will do that for you. But if you can do either one of that. Let's see if we can figure out where people are from. So Pam is Louisville, Peter is Louisville, Ruth Ann is Louisville. Oh, got quite a crew from Louisville right there. Linda is Louisville, Maggie's Lebanon Junction, another Louisville, George, Bowling Green, Belton. Good, Bardstown. Good, great. You guys are figuring that out. That's awesome. Wonderful. All right, so keep figuring that out. Let's go to the next slide, Teresa. So we're going to dive into the workshop here. First, I want to tell you a little bit about where the 5 levers came from. By the time of our very first Third Coast Conference, so that's Texas, Louisiana, and Texas, Louisiana, my goodness, what's the other state now? It just jumped out of my head. Mississippi. Those volunteers had been having regular meetings with their members of Congress for several years by the time it was 2013. Those volunteers felt frustrated by the lack of progress. I can imagine we can all relate to that. It seemed to them, many of whom were engineers, like a lever was stuck. They decided that if one lever seemed stuck, they might pull on some other levers to get movement in Texas. So our volunteers reviewed the various activities underway, writing letters to the editor, tabling at community events, giving talks to clubs and faith groups, holding monthly chapter meetings, and they organized these activities into 5 categories dubbed the 5 levers of political will. So using the chat again, go back to the chat and let's see how many levers we can name right now. So go to the chat, guess 1 of them or 2 of them or all 5. What are the 5 levers of political will? Chat is down there at the bottom of your Zoom screen and the little bar across the bottom. Lobbying, Jim, Linda says grass tops, letter writing. Letter writing is an activity. It's under one of the levers. It's not yet quite its own lever. Media, letter to the editor writing fits under media, or it fits under lobbying if you're writing to Congress. So we've got lobbying, media, grass tops. We need 2 more. Grassroots, 1 more. Lobbying, media, grassroots, grass tops. And group development. Maggie got us for us, the group. Awesome, nice job, everybody. All right, so today we're going to consider how these levers interface with each other and why we need teamwork to get the work done. So first though, let's take a minute to look at CCL's origin. This is good for our newcomers, and review the bill that we support. So next slide, Teresa. Many of you know Marshall Saunders, our founder. His DNA runs deeply through our organization. Marshall died last winter, and since I cannot introduce you to him, I will tell you a little about him. Marshall was a businessman who, like all of us, has something in particular that inspired his action on climate. Marshall dedicated 3 decades to the effort of eradicating poverty. He devoted his time, talent, and treasure to specific programs designed to help poor people launch small businesses. When he first learned about climate change, he recognized that global warming was already threatening poor people and undermining the efforts that he, and so many others had put into helping people rise from poverty. So Marshall decided that if he was serious about solutions to poverty, he needed to become serious about solving the climate crisis as well. So next slide. As a result, 13 years ago, Marshall started Citizens Climate Lobby with 3 groups in San Diego. Today we have 600 chapters all over the world, with 478 of those in the US, and we're covering 92% of US congressional districts. In his volunteering to address poverty, Marshall had joined up with a group that had developed a specific approach to organizing citizens to empower Congress to take action. Marshall took that proven methodology and applied it to climate solutions. That group's name is Results. We've expanded on that methodology with the 5 levers, and we will explore that shortly. First, let's review the Energy, Innovation, and Carbon Dividend Act. So next slide, and Sarah, can you get us started? Are you able to get to your slides?
I am. Awesome. Okay, so, well, I can see this slide. The Energy, Innovation, and Carbon Dividend Act has been reintroduced into the House of Reps, and sorry, mine's freezing again.
That's all right. How about if I jump in? I don't mind zipping through this at all, and it's not a problem. So yeah, exactly. So it was reintroduced. It was first introduced in 2018 in the House and the Senate with Republican and Democratic sponsors. And right now, we're coming to the end of this Congress. So it's what we can celebrate about this bill is that it has become the most widely supported carbon pricing bill introduced in this Congress. So next slide, Teresa. Why do we like the Energy, Innovation, and Carbon Dividend Act? Because it works. Reducing America's emissions by 40% within 12 years. Current greenhouse gas regulations fall short of this accomplishment. A broad range of economists and scientists support the act because it's simple, comprehensive, and effective. So in addition to protecting against climate change, the Energy Innovation Act is good for people. The policy improves health and saves lives by reducing pollution that Americans breathe. An estimated 114,000 people die prematurely every year because of pollution. Reducing carbon pollution reduces these premature deaths, helping communities across the country. So Black people, Native Americans, Latinos, low-income white people who more frequently live closer to coal-burning power plants. And I don't need to say much, I'm sure, to those of you in Kentucky living and aware of people living near coal mining and the implications there. Secondly, the carbon dividend puts money directly into people's pockets every month to spend as they see fit, helping low and middle income Americans. Not only is it good for people, but it's also good for the economy. The bill creates job growth right here on American soil, on main streets, in hospitals, and in manufacturing. So next slide. The Energy Innovation Act uses a carbon fee and dividend approach, which works like a three-legged stool. First, we place a steadily rising price on carbon. We assess the fee upstream on fossil fuel companies directly to keep administrative costs low. The fee starts at $15 per ton of CO2 and increases annually by $10 per ton indexed to inflation. Second, the bill ensures that 100% of the net revenue from this fee gets divided up equally among households. The third leg levels the global playing field with a border carbon adjustment fee on goods coming from countries without a similar price on carbon. So next slide. The co-sponsors of the bill included a regulatory pause. Let's consider their thinking on that. Currently, a small number of laws regulate greenhouse gas emissions. In fact, many are tied up in courts, unable to function. The Energy Innovation Act outperforms those current greenhouse gas regulations. With that reality in mind, the bill's co-sponsors included a regulatory pause that goes like this. The Clean Air Act and CAFE standards for cars stay in full force. The bill covers any new regulation on greenhouse gases. The bill sets interim targets for emission reductions. After 5 years, if annual reductions fall short of the specified targets in the bill, the fee automatically increases by $15 instead of $10 for that year. After 10 years, if we do not meet or exceed our climate goals, even with the higher rate of increase, the bill requires the EPA to regulate greenhouse gas emissions so we can meet our climate goals. Bipartisan collaboration created this regulatory pause. Democrats agree to a pause, allowing the act to prove itself. Republicans agree to regulate if the act falls short of its climate goals. Both Republicans and Democrats want to solve the climate crisis, and they are being respectful of the other group's core values with this elegant solution. Next slide. So, making a political judgment call, the bill's co-sponsors added 2 exemptions: fuels used on farms and fuels used by the military would not be covered by the fee. Both of these sectors do not respond to changes in fuel prices in a quick way. So we need to find other ways to cut emissions in both of these sectors. Now, in addition, these particular fuel exemptions affect just 2% of US greenhouse gas emissions. So even with these exemptions, the policy would still hit ambitious emission reduction targets. All right, so next slide. And Sarah, I'm just gonna do this next slide and then we'll get people into breakout rooms. So we're gonna practice talking about the bill. And I know many of you are brand new, so that's all right. This is just practicing. John is gonna put us into breakout rooms of 3 people with 3 minutes to be together in that room. So that's 1 minute per person. And John, if you'll just remember to put me and Sarah and Tony and Teresa in a separate breakout room, just a little reminder for you on that. We will have Q&A, questions and answer, after the breakout rooms. So if you don't like anything about the bill or it doesn't quite make sense right now, then just say pass when it's your turn. And you can bring your questions to us after the breakout rooms. You'll each have a minute to share. If someone could keep track of the time and say gentle time so that each of you get a turn. When a minute's up, just say gentle time. If you're on the phone, use your *6 to mute and unmute. Zoom is going to send you a little message telling you there are 59 seconds left. You can just ignore that message. Zoom will bring you back to the room after those 59 seconds. You don't need to do anything. And just know that you've got another minute left to share. If everyone has a turn to share, go back around the room and share again. John, are you ready to put us in the breakout rooms?
We are all set. And just remember, you have to unmute yourself when you jump in your room.
Awesome. Thank you.
And away you go.
Shazam! You guys, 28. I just want you to know you beat out Wyoming, Mississippi, Vermont.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to be bragging on y'all. All right, so.
It took a little bit of persuasion. It was a little hard at the beginning. We didn't know what was going on.
Keep in mind, though, Kentucky is still one of only 5 states where the majority of people don't believe in climate change.
Yeah,
All right,
that's true.
I'm saying you guys are rocking it. You're beating out Wyoming, for crying out loud. But anyway, so time for Q&A. I hope you had a chance to meet maybe somebody you didn't know yet in that little breakout room and share what you liked about the bill. You can go to the chat now and ask a question, and I'll do my best to answer it, or you can unmute yourself and just shout the question out. So what questions do we have about the bill? And we're going to do about 8 minutes on questions. Here's somebody typing a question. Any questions? Feel free to raise your hand or type it in the chat. Anybody with a question?
Go ahead, Chris.
I guess my question is, does the bill have to be resubmitted every year?
No, it would be the bill would go into play, and the increase would happen automatically every year. So that's the annual piece about it, that the fee increases. That first year it's $15 per ton, and then in the second year, it goes up by $10, so it'll be at $25 total. And then the next year it goes up again, $10, it'll be $35 total. So that's what's happening annually. You don't have to have it go through Congress again every year.
Right, because, well, I'm talking about initially, because wasn't there a bill a year ago?
Before it's passed.
Before it's passed, does it have to be
Oh, until it passes, yes. Congress lasts 2 years. It's a 2-year Congress, and so you've got 2 years to submit a bill and get it passed. So okay. Yes, we don't have one in the Senate. This one's likely to be maybe getting more sponsors, but not go through the process. So yeah, we are working with members of Congress so that we get a bill. Our dream is to have a bill that has strong Republican support from the beginning, strong bipartisan support. So that's what we aim for, in CCL being the group that focuses on bipartisanship. And we are open to feedback on that, because we're aware that sometimes we're a little clumsy in our bipartisanship. So we like people to be able to say, hey, you know, it could be a little more bipartisan in this way. Let me see we got some questions in. Explain military and ag. Do they get rebates on increased fuel prices? So farmers already do the red diesel, where the diesel's dyed red, and you know that that diesel does not have the cost of the federal like gas tax in it. So it would be, the agriculture exemption would just be tagged on to that red diesel, the way that functions. And I don't know how the military, I guess when they buy their fuel in bulk, I think that'd be pretty easy to manage and navigate. So these are things that are already happening with farming that would just be using that same technique or strategy there. And then Peter says, how do we know if the bill is being effective? John, what's the answer to that? I think we are reviewing, there's some kind of review that gets set up and starts fully functioning at year 5, looking at the reduction. So we know it's pretty, go ahead. Somebody. It's pretty easy to tell based on the records from fossil fuel companies of how much fuel they're selling, we know that's how much fuel is going into the market. When those numbers decrease, then we know that the bill is being effective. And
yeah, I think it's all science-based, and I think it's built right in that after 10 years, I think they look at it again, and if it's not being effective, they can increase or the fee.
Yeah, from 5 to 10 years, if it's not being effective, the fee is increased by $15 instead of 10. And at year 10, Congress says to the EPA, you need to regulate greenhouse gases. So, oh my goodness, here's some more questions. How does fee and dividend approach relate to Kentucky's current coal severance tax structure? So I don't know specifically the answer to that. Maybe one of the state coordinators can answer, but generally this bill functions perfectly fine with state level initiatives.
Right. If I'm correct, the coal tax is applied when coal is taken out of the ground. Any coal that comes out still after our bill is passed, if it's still coming on the ground, would still get the severance tax. But assuming over time that severance tax would go away because the coal is going to go away.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I see Ruth Ann's had her hand up too.
Oh, go ahead.
Ruth Ann? You have to unmute yourself.
There we go. I was just wondering, because it came up in the talk with the economists, the plight of small businesses, and I'm particularly thinking of churches and nonprofits. So how do we present the bill to them knowing that they're not going to get any kind of a rebate?
Yeah, so I love that question. And it comes up also for farmers when you've got kind of small businesses like that. So yes, the rebate goes to individuals. It doesn't go to businesses. The idea of the fee starts low and then steadily, predictably increases. So let's just look at the fee. $15 per ton of CO2 amounts to about 12 cents on a gallon of gasoline. $10 per ton amounts to about 8 cents. So in a decade, the price of fossil fuel, the price of gasoline will go up about $1 in 10 years. So that's like, that's kind of manageable. I've seen gasoline go up $1 in 2 months, right? We've seen gas go like that. So it's a start low, steadily, predictably increase. So what does that mean? That means the church council gets together and says, what does it look like here at church? Where do we have some good solar gain? Could we get some solar panels put on? Is there an opportunity for a small wind turbine on the land that we own? What about insulation? How effective are we at reducing, turning off the lights when we're leaving a room? Or do we heat the church all during the week? You know, so you get to make those kinds of conversations and make those kinds of shifts. Now, so that's at a small level. At a larger level, you have the rest of the economy responding. Like, we're all carrying cell phone computers in our pockets because that's how the economy evolved for us. And when there's an economic incentive for the economy to evolve in a certain direction, then we all benefit. Goodness knows what's going to happen, you know, in 10 years when the big players are seeing the price on the wall like that, when the inventors and the investors and the Walmarts and the Targets and whomever begin to sell, begin to shift what's available to us. Are we going to have plug and play solar? You know, I would never have guessed I would have had computers in my pocket that would let me do my work while I was walking the dog in the neighborhood. So that's the exciting thing, that the investors and the inventors get to shift the economy. The small players are going to have conversations about energy efficiency and tapping into those opportunities. So I hope that's helpful.
Thank you.
And Ellie, we are hitting 8 minutes, so I don't know if you want to, there's a couple really good questions in there, so I don't know if you want to hit them real quick or you want to.
Yeah, tell me the couple of good questions and I'll answer them quickly.
Okay, so one was asking about, do we feel that if this goes, will other countries goes? And another one was, has any other country done this already?
Okay, those are beautiful. So yes, country, Canada, and before Canada, British Columbia. And British Columbia 10 years ago, when John and I first started volunteering here, was doing a carbon fee and dividend approach. And we saw we saw greenhouse gas emissions drop in British Columbia and GDP grow in British Columbia in comparison to the other provinces in Canada. So 3 years ago, when Canada was looking at a national climate policy, they picked British Columbia's policy, the carbon fee and dividend. So that's national. Canada does not have a border carbon adjustment. They are not, the US is the biggest consumer and trader with countries around the world. So we have the opportunity with that border carbon adjustment to inspire other countries to step up if they are not already doing that. Many countries already are pricing carbon in some fashion with the Energy Innovation Act and the border carbon adjustment fee. All of our trading partners will want to be doing some kind of carbon pricing if they already aren't on their soil. So that's how we in the US get all of our trading partners to be part of this solution. All right, so obviously there's wonderful questions, and here's a couple of ways you can get your answer. Join me on Wednesday nights. I lead the information session, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern time. You can join anytime. There's lots of opportunity for Q&A on that. You can also go to the community website, which you can find at the bottom of the regular citizensclimatelobby.org page, and there are forums, and there's a forum dedicated to the bill. You can ask your state coordinators. They have good answers. You can ask your regional coordinator, John Clark. He can answer these questions as well. So wonderful questions. All right, so we have a little treat. Teresa, you have something you want us to do now, right? With a little bit of music. So we're gonna get up. I want everyone, we've been sitting and learning. I want everyone to just stand up. We got some music that's gonna come on here in a minute. We're gonna move and stretch. And go ahead and play us that music.
They won't be reaching out for you no more. Don't tell my heart, my achy breaking heart. I just don't think he'd understand. And if you tell my heart, my achy breaking heart, he might blow up into the Arkansas. You can tell your dog about my leg. Go tell your brother Cliff, whose fist can tell my lip. He never really liked me anyway. Or tell your Aunt Louise, tell anything you please. Myself already knows I'm not okay.
We always like to have a little fun and move around a bit to help get the blood flowing, because this is so much to be digesting. Woo, so let's go to that slide 30, which is where we've got the levers listed. All right, so we're going to move on to the 5 levers. These are those organizing principles that our Texas volunteers developed in 2013. We're going to shortly head to Zoom breakout rooms, one for each lever. Not yet, we've got some learning to do first. But in those breakout rooms, when we get to that part, we're going to brainstorm on how we can collectively and individually expand or start or fine-tune our work in these levers. Now, rather than randomly assigning you to a lever, we want you to pick a lever that appeals to you today and indicate that lever by adding it to the front of your name. So later on in the workshop, John's gonna put you in the lever breakout room that you've chosen. So as you listen to us describe the levers, what I want you to do is add the first letters of that lever to the front of your name. And if you can't figure that out, put it in the chat and we will change your name for you. So you got L for lobbying, M for media, and then we've got 3 of those that start with the letter G. So you need to do GR for grassroots, GT for grass tops, GD for group development. And now I'm going to explain those levers for you so you can listen to these explanations and that will help you decide. So next slide. So Lobbying Congress. Members of Congress want to know what voters want, so they encourage their DC, policy staff to meet with us to learn about local thinking on national policy. They also expect staff in their local offices to maintain relationships with constituents, and they encourage those meetings too. When time allows, members of Congress meet face-to-face with constituents. In June, with our virtual lobby meetings, we had 434 of those, and 21% of those included a member of Congress. So with these averages, we think that means members of Congress like meeting with us. So next slide. If you join the lobby team, you and a small group of CCL volunteers will meet virtually these days with your member of Congress and staff throughout the year. You might drop by to greet staff in their local offices. Policy staff understand policy issues, and local staff understand the personalities of their boss. So relationships in both of these locations help. You will ask your member of Congress and their staff two things. One, would they co-sponsor the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act or one of our supporting ask bills? Two, who do they need to hear from in order to sense a growing desire for their leadership on climate solutions? You will share what you discover or discern with others in your chapter in confidence, and together you will customize the political will and activate the other levers, media, grassroots, and grass tops, in ways that are meaningful to your Kentucky congresspeople. So next slide. That brings us to media. A member of Congress cares about what newspapers print, what gets covered on TV, and what the radio says about them. Next slide. On the media team, your media strategy will address the political realities of your district or your state. If you have a large rural areas, for example, you might target small rural newspapers with your letters to the editor and op-eds. A small team may meet with editorial page editors to seek their endorsement of the Energy Innovation Act. You might pitch a story to a newspaper or TV station about an interesting chapter member or a local respected leader calling for action on climate, and tie those human interest stories back to the bill. Now on to grassroots. So next slide. Members of Congress understand that every phone call, email, or letter they receive on an issue represents many others with the same concern. Staffers tell us that a steady daily drumbeat of calls and emails make a big impact on their bosses. So next slide. Our grassroots efforts give voice to those who care about climate. In 2019, study from the Yale Program on Climate Change Communication said that 2/3 of Americans, that's 66%, are at least somewhat concerned about climate change. Grassroots volunteers recruit people to call their member of Congress on a monthly basis, and we call this our monthly calling campaign. With COVID, we've gotten creative. We aren't out at community events these days. Instead, we work through our own lists of family, friends, neighbors, coworkers, and others to ask them to commit calling one day a month. So next slide. Members of Congress consistently tell us that they need to hear from local respected leaders. Our members of Congress trust these people and turn to them for advice and guidance. Individual voices of local leaders make a disproportionate impact on a member of Congress, and that's why we seek them as endorsers. So next slide. If you join the Grass Tops team, you will work with volunteers doing various tasks, including researching possible influencers, opening doors to those leaders, building relationships, seeking endorsements, and then nudging those community leaders to speak directly to their members of Congress. You might ask your lobby team for guidance in order to find endorsers who can make the biggest impact. They might suggest farmers or small business owners or corporate leaders. Our Business Climate Leaders Action Team can give you some resources for engaging various industry sectors. All right, next slide. A big shout out to grassroots volunteers. As community awareness grows, Grasstop's media and lobbying work flows more smoothly. So gratitude to Grassroots for greasing the wheels with their presentation. So next slide. Presentations play a very important role in Grassroots. Our presentation volunteers work as a team. Some volunteers line up the presentations, other volunteers give the presentations, and many volunteers help manage the networking opportunities from these events. And almost all of us speak informally to our friends, family, coworkers, neighbors, giving micro presentations on the bill and about CCL. We find creative ways to reach potential supporters online these days. So we all help educate, persuade, and build a vocal majority of citizens that will empower Congress to move forward on climate. And this work continues despite the pandemic. Our Presenters Action Team also has wonderful resources. So next slide. Holding all of these levers together, we've got group development or chapter development. This is the glue of a CCL chapter. So next slide. This team welcomes and orients new volunteers. They might suggest specific projects to those new volunteers in the other levers, media, grassroots, grasstops, or lobbying. On this team, you may call chapter members to check in on projects, remind them of upcoming meetings. You might pair new members with old timers who can show the newbies the ropes. These folks also organize social gatherings, maybe socially distanced outside somewhere or on Zoom. Our director, Mark Reynolds, says we're betting the farm on relationships, and that includes relationships we have with each other. Our work in CCL finds its footing in our core values: focus, optimism, relationships, personal power, integrity, diversity, and nonpartisanship. All of us in CCL help to keep these core values alive in any of the work we're doing on all of the levers. All right, next slide. We use social media in every lever. You might tweet about your member of Congress to exert some leverage on the lobbying lever. You might post in Facebook about your upcoming monthly chapter meeting to recruit new members. A picture on Instagram could highlight a local influencer who is speaking strongly about solving the climate crisis. So next slide. We're doing all of this good work behind the scenes in order to pass substantive federal climate legislation. So let's keep this big goal in mind when we go to the breakout rooms shortly. Each action or suggestion we develop should build political will meaningful to your member of Congress, so it becomes easier for them to support a carbon fee and dividend style bill. Next slide. So we've run through the levers. Let's see how it's going with adding your lever to your name. I see some folks have started to do that. You can put it at the front of your name, and you can put it in the chat and we can help you. So see what you can do to pick a lever. All right, so we've got one more exercise to do before we head to the breakout rooms. This next exercise will open doors for each of us to make a bigger contribution to CCL without a lot of worry or effort. So are you up for that exercise? Give me a little thumbs up. Are you up for a little exercise? Good. Love seeing that. So it's a speed writing exercise. So what I need you to do is grab your paper, something to write with. When you get that, hold it up so we can see people have gotten that. Nice, very good. You guys are ahead of the game. What I'm gonna do is flash you some questions. As I read the question, write down the first thing that comes to mind. We're gonna go quick, so write down one phrase and more if you have a little bit of time. So let's click to the first question, Teresa. Oops, go ahead, one more slide, sorry. All right, first question. What do you really care about that brought you to CCL or climate change? For me, it's my children, it's my granddaughter now, and it's a sense that I am responsible for repairing the relationship between people and planet. What do you really care about that brought you to CCL climate change? All right, next question, next slide. What is one of your passions outside of CCL? For me, regenerative agriculture. What is one of your passions outside of CCL? All right, next question, next slide. What's your special skill or expertise? Please don't be modest. We're building a team and we need to know what you do well. I like to present. I like to write poetry. Maybe I could write letters to the editor. They're kind of short, sweet poems. What's our next question? What other groups do you belong to? Civic, faith, neighborhood, education. I'm a member of the Virginia Association of Biological Farmers. What memberships do you have? They might be nice networking opportunities. Next question. How do you like to work? Solo, with a partner, or a team? Might be all of the above. That's my case. All right, next question. We're going to look at a checklist. I'm going to read those out. Pick a couple of things you think you could see yourself doing off that checklist, and you can also identify things you don't like to do. So click us on the next slide. All right, here they are. Chatting. You can tell I like to do that with strangers, familiar folks. Speaking publicly, that's another one of my faves. Presentations, town hall questions, writing, letters to Congress, letters to the editor, social media posts, events, planning or hosting. I like hosting more than I like planning. That's good for me to know. Designing, flyers, social media. I wish I was good at that, but it's not my forte. Organizing, information, volunteers, data entry. I am not very good at data entry. So if you want me to be on the party team, we want to make sure we got somebody who's good at the data entry, another person who's good at planning. Give me instructions, I'll go buy the food. I also like to host research, online related topics, outreach, calling or emailing. We love having help with calling. Social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, technology, as you can see. We definitely need technology help these days, Zoom or in-person projectors. Teaching, we all have something to teach and we can all learn some more. Networking. All right, so next slide. Okay, so now let's think about expanding our contribution to our collective work. Reflecting on your answers regarding your skills, interests, affiliations, and circumstances, what is one way you could expand your contribution to CCL that would delight you and move us forward? So in the chat, fill in the sentence, I might. I'm going to go ahead and put mine in the chat. I might get more LTEs in our rural newspapers. I have a big rural district in Virginia. So in the chat, fill in the blank. I might. One particular thing, something that you might do that would be fun. I might help with data entry. Boring, but it's what I can do well. Clara, I love you. I might research newspaper coverage on climate topics. Beautiful. That would be great for a letter to the editor team. I might get more LTs. Oh, that was me. I might give more presentations. Yes, Ruth Ann, wonderful. I might get an op-ed published in Kentucky. Woo woo. I might see a Republican representative support 763. That would be lovely to see that. I might get students involved. Thank you, Fred. Yes. I think I might raise awareness on my college campus. Awesome. I might enjoy talking with congressional staff. Wonderful. I might flood social media with posts, says Manny. I might get our chapter better organized. Outreach to grass tops, says Tony. I might arrange socially distanced in-person gatherings. I like presentations. I love that. I might work at public gatherings when we can do that, or I can find other groups looking for presenters. Beautiful, wonderful, I love that. Oh, I might research and share information. Wonderful. I might become more knowledgeable and make presentations, says Peter. George says I might give presentations to outside groups. I see a presentation team forming here, Kentucky, especially you've got people interested in presenting. And also, Carmel says, I might find other groups looking for presenters. That's a night when you have somebody who wants to look for the presentations and a bunch of people who give them. That's a nice team. Presentations, woo! I might enjoy teaching. I'm seeing a theme, Kentucky. Oh my goodness, I love that. I might enjoy, okay, good. Okay, feel free to put anything else that comes to mind. Notice synergy happening here and collaboration I can see. And we have one more movement break because we're going to be going into those little breakout rooms. So let's get one more piece of music. If you did not stand up last time, I invite you to stand up and stretch. Don't worry, we all look silly moving. Teresa's going to give us a little movement break. I got to take off my sweater.
All right, and another Kentucky local. Here comes the Judds.
Sitting in the porch swing, listening to the light rain, beating on the tin with baby just a me and you, rocking with the rhythm of the rain. Slide on over, baby, hold me closer, moving to and fro, just swaying like a slow freight train, rocking with the rhythm of the rain. Rhythm of the rain.
All right. You guys have awesome music from the people who Kentucky gave us as musicians. That was beautiful. Oh, all right. So I also am going to quickly put in the link in the chat, a link to a mini version of that little exercise. It's on Community. If anybody wants to do a similar, I call that a volunteer inventory that we just did. That's on Community if you wanted to use it with your chapter or whatever. There it is in the chat, a link to that. All right, so when you get a chance, get us back to sharing a screen and get us to that core activities slide number 56. And so in the breakout rooms, I just want to say a little thing to all of you. In the breakout rooms, you're going to generate a lot of creative, ambitious ideas. And some ideas might be perfect, and that's great. Brainstorming is about getting all ideas out. If you are just starting out, if you're brand new to CCL, if your chapter's new, be patient with yourself. Slow and steady wins the race here. Start with growing your chapter. Make sure you've got a connection with the person who is the main point of contact with your member of Congress. We call that the liaison, the congressional liaison, a CCL volunteer. Prioritize grassroots, reaching out, those presentations. I love seeing that theme popping up. Grass tops, making those connections, steady media drumbeat, just one step at a time. All right, let's click to the next slide. I want you to see that in the breakout rooms, we have an agenda. And you met those lever leaders. They are going to be leading us through these agendas. And we've got a little 5-minute for introductions, 15 minutes for brainstorming, 7 minutes to look at that brainstorming list and figure out which item you might feel called to do and which item you think is essential or very important. And then when we come back from the breakout rooms, we'll hear a little report out. And let me take a look and see how, look, ooh, it looks like we've got pretty well people lined up. So what I'm gonna do is have John send everyone to the breakout rooms, and whoever isn't yet signed up for a breakout room, we'll sort out with you and help you get settled up. All right, so have fun in your breakout rooms. Welcome back. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. There we go. People are coming back slowly but surely.
Recording again.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Hello, welcome back. There's the lobby team. Everybody's coming back. Media. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Very good. All right, everybody. So welcome back. And let me see. I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone just for the moment. What we're going to do now is we're going to hear reports from each of the breakout rooms. And I'm going to take notes. So I'm going to, Teresa, I'm going to share my screen while I'm taking notes. And then when I'm done taking the notes, and I'll pass it back to you. So I am so excited you all are back. John has already started the recording. You're seeing the speaker version of the slide deck, so excuse that, but that's where I'm taking notes. So if we could go through the levers, and I know group development was teeny tiny and 2 people from the same chapter, so they went to other levers. And this is the order we're gonna go through the reports. We'll start with lobbying and then media, grassroots, and grass tops. So lobbying, what is the report? Oh, unmute yourself, Fred.
Sorry, I was his note taker during the meeting, so I just emailed that over. So we're still kind of making sure that we get that together. It'll just be like 1 second.
All right.
So otherwise, I don't remember a thing that we talked about. So if I can open this up.
Yeah.
Okay. So we had some people come visit our group, and we were very appreciative of that. But we had Northern Kentucky, a couple people from Northern Kentucky, myself and my daughter Maria, we were here, and then also Maggie Hedinger from Lebanon Junction. And I mean, I guess the brainstorm, or what do you want, Ellie?
Yeah, tell us, like, what's the sense of direction? What did you guys sort of surmise? Where do we want Kentucky to be in 6 months?
Well, I think part of our session was that we were learning about how that CCL really has an incredible resources for lobbying. Tony was able to fill that in on us. We also realize from some of our experience that some representatives are really tough to sway and convince. And we've tried many things. We've had good ideas in terms of getting the word out and lobbying. Maggie brought up a great idea about when you're making masks, to maybe have CCL across your mask, or Citizens Climate Lobby, or the logo for the CCL on your mask. And that will allow people to say, well, you know, what's going on? What is that? And gives you an opportunity to, well, lobby for the idea or for the effort that's CCL. And so it's, we know that other representatives, we have Rand Paul in our area, does weekly phone calls, and getting on that phone call list is something that's going to be helpful to us. It's, you don't necessarily get to really get your word in so far. It's might take some clever work. So The lobbying team was our brainstorming was more sharing experience, but also some new ideas like what Maggie brought up.
Nice. Very good. Nice work, lobbying. All right. Media, Gary and crew.
Well, we came with no consensus. Media is, we concluded, is certainly an evolving process. I mean, we're going from media of yesteryear to media of today. And it's not clear exactly what to do with social media in that it's not completely dependable. It's you don't know what's true, what's false. It's difficult to use it as a dependable venue to get a point across, because anything you say can be sabotaged or altered and or diverted in a different direction. So you can't clearly say that that's the most accurate way to get your points across, though it's certainly one of the easiest ways and certainly gives you probably the broadest audience. So how to deal with the good and bad of social media is a trick, and it's not been resolved. Peter brought out a point that it's nice and cozy to be able to deal in this regards with people that you're familiar with and know share the same opinion. The point is trying to get it to the group that's not this group. And he is not certain of the best way to do that. We couldn't get consensus when it's a newspaper or if it's a radio or it's NPR or whatever. So he as an architect's going to figure that out for us. Quote. That's my quote, it's not his, by the way. We had a couple of teachers who've addressed this issue as far as their classes are concerned in the past. It's certainly not part of our usual curriculum, and as you well know, it's controversial in various school systems. So we didn't get to talk too much about the role that younger people play in this, but certainly the stakes are higher for them than it is for us, and we certainly like to see them in greater numbers in our groups than we see. I think it affects them more than it affects us. I'd like, but with no consensus as far as how to best get them on board, especially since they're busy doing so many other things. As we get older, we have a little more time to invest in the things that we retrospectively figured out are important to us. Younger people are still figuring that out. We have to advertise to them, and then they have to take it to heart and roll with the ball. I think we feel that media-wise, you're probably going to get more truisms out of certain newspapers, larger newspapers, Post, Times, things of that nature, maybe some of the local papers. A little less bias there than you do get in social networking, but it's also more difficult to get your points across there because there's certain criteria the editors may require in order for you to be published. In that regards, for instance, at the local paper I am in, 3 out of the 4 people in the editorial board have to agree with you if you're going to do an op-ed before they'll print it. It has to be consistent with their policies. They'll do a letter to the editor pretty readily, but an op-ed, they have to be on board with you before they'll print it.
Good. All right. Beautiful. Okay. Kind of paraphrase. You know how I like to turn things into sort of action statements.
Very good.
When I'm taking notes. All right. So then grassroots, Janet and team. You might need to unmute if you aren't unmuted yet.
Sorry. Okay, you can hear me now?
Yep.
We had representation in our breakout room from Northern Kentucky, Bardstown, and Louisville. And we talked about presentations, we talked about tabling, and came up with a number of opportunities, venues, organizations that we could either present to or do tabling with. Tabling, of course, won't happen until we can, get together more. But presentations, we can do virtually. We talked about we had a couple of people that were interested in doing lecturing being the presenters. A couple of us are willing to organize and you know, set up those presentations. And then there was also some talk about just community gatherings, small community gatherings. Maybe you just say we want to have a small discussion group about climate change without putting a lot of pressure on, you know, asking them to do anything initially. Let that kind of evolve. And I think, yeah, so, and we've got someone that Jamie, I guess, said she was interested in pursuing that, and maybe even doing the community gatherings and getting people to sign up for the monthly calling campaign.
Nice, nice, good work. Get that last one. Okay, perfect. Love it. Nice work, grassroots. Good job. All right, Jim and the Grass Tops crew. Let's see, make sure you're unmuted, Jim. Not yet hearing you.
Now you should.
Yes, now I can.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's all right.
Anyway, we talked about a number of different groups, types of organizations, and so on we can reach out to. But I think perhaps the most important things that came out were more process issues in the ways we reach out to influencers in our communities. So I'd like to just mention three, I guess it's going to be three of those. That we identify with groups, organizations we reach out to, how they could benefit from this bill passing. You know, what's in it for them, and for some of them it might be something that's a value base. For others, it might mean an economic incentive. So if we can identify what is the economic incentive for some group, that would be a plus. The other was we ought to take advantage of groups that we have personal contacts with. It's not that those are the only ones we should contact, but I think we felt like if we have a personal in, so to speak, with a group, maybe that's one we ought to start with. Then the third kind of approach, or that I think we all agreed was important, is persistence, that we have to be persistent. We don't want to stop with just the first contact that in some way says no or doesn't respond positively. We want to, we feel there's an opportunity there. We got to keep pushing and keep making noise, and hopefully a door will open.
Beautiful. I love that. That's beautiful. Oh my gosh, you guys did some great work in those breakout rooms. And I'll say one little thing about group development for you. As you, and just very much, I can see these projects coming together. You'll be thinking as you onboard people, hey, we've got an effort to reach out to organizations. Let's hear where you might have some connections. Let me connect you with the folks who are working in reaching grass tops with existing connections. So when we're all getting an understanding of these various ways we're focusing in each of these levers, we can utilize that in our group development onboarding. We all can help bring people on board to our chapters. So this is really nice work. All right, so Teresa, if you would, I'm gonna stop my sharing and let you take over the sharing again for us and get us to the slide with the project charter workshop. It's slide number 60, if that's helpful to you. All right, So what I want to do is extend an invitation. If there is something from today that you think, oh, that's a fabulous project. It's bigger than like, I want to reach out to my Virginia Association of Biological Farmers and I will ask if I can present. Like that's a one person kind of project. But if it's more like, it's going to involve more people. I want to figure out what CCL resources are available. Who might the stakeholders be? So a little more comprehensive. Then I invite you to consider attending the November 1st project charter workshop. It's a 2-hour Sunday evening. It's designed to help you turn your good idea into actionable plans that then you can take back and build a little crew around. So I'm going to put the invitation, the Eventbrite in the chat and invite you to consider if you want to participate in that. It's certainly not required, but it's an offer. Then next slide, I want to say a couple little things. One, the flow team, the people who led the breakout sessions and the state coordinators, we're going to stick around after the workshop ends and talk about any threads we want to follow through as a state. So you can rest assured that these wonderful ideas and this solid thinking that you all have helped generate is going to continue, and we're going to hang on to that and move it forward. So feel confident about that. Now, to just allow us all a moment to share what this workshop has meant to each of us individually, I'm going to have us turn one more time to the chat. This is the last sort of group chat moment we're having. And in the chat, share with us any insights you gained from today, favorite moments. Maybe you really liked dancing to Achy Breaky Heart. Anything in particular you want to call out that you really want to champion. Go ahead and turn to the chat one more time and let's share that with each other in the chat. I'm gonna put my glasses on so I can read what y'all are gonna say. So, mask logos, Tony liked that. Nice to see how 5 pieces work together, say Joe. Ruth Ann says, it is possible. I see hope there. Teresa says, Manny, what is the link you shared with us? Question there. Joe,
I have a raised hand there, but I don't want to interrupt. So
yeah, please go
I'll
ahead.
tell everybody at the end. I'll tell everybody at the end what that is.
Okay. Carmel says, just start. Fred says, meeting others across the state. Fasuda says, oops, I'm ready to design mask logos. Okay, whoever the mask, we see a mask logo team. We got the logos. You can work with CCL, figure that out. I got leads I want to follow up with, says Pam. Peter says, appreciated discussions on the use of social media. Heard some great ideas today. Thanks for the opportunity to learn more about the 5 levers. Good to hear from many like-minded people. Jim says, new ways to organize. Beth says, inspired to persist. Just thought of a contact. I have at St. Elizabeth Healthcare. Ooh, love reaching out to the healthcare. I like dancing too, says Carmel. Maggie says, we're brainstorming the mask sessions. Linda says, I like meeting others from Kentucky chapters and hope we can gain more attention for the carbon tax and dividend. And Teresa says, encouraged to see so many positive folks on this call. So wonderful. John, did you get a chance to take any group pictures, or do you want us to stop the share so you can take a little group picture of us?
No, I didn't. Let's do that now.
Okay, so let's, oh, good. All right, so everybody, straighten your hair out, smile and wave. We'll get, John's gonna take some pictures for us.
Cool. Well, let me get page 2. Hang on.
Okay, keep smiling, keep waving.
Awesome. Got it. Thank you.
All right, and so then one last, sharing the screen. John is going to wrap us up with his final thoughts. He's our regional coordinator. We're going to give him the chance to share some final thoughts. So John, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so now it's time to wrap things up. And I want to start with a few thank yous. Thank you so much to Ellie Sparks, our Kentucky state coordinators, Teresa Werner, Sarah Aslan, and Tony Potochnik, and our amazing Levers team of Fred Sievers, Christine Missick, Dr. Gary Verst, Janet Hackman, and Jim Vogt. And most of all, thanks to all of you for coming today. And I want to end today's workshop with this great quote from famous Kentucky-born writer Wendell Berry. And he wrote, "The earth is what we all have in common." I think while society likes to separate people into categories, and sometimes those groups are portrayed as opposing forces, I think it's important to remember we're all as one as human beings. We all want the same things, to love and to be loved, to wanting a better world for our children. And this is how we're gonna all connect and work together to create the political will for a livable world. So thank you all again so much, and have a great rest of your weekend. Love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.